Hey Homeworthy, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Ryan, and welcome to our home in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Come into the castle. Hello, I'm Matthew Trettel.
And I'm Ryan Hanson, and welcome to our home here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Our home is referred to as the Pillsbury Castle. It was built by Alfred Pillsbury in 1903. He was the son of the co-founder of Pillsbury, the milling company, known probably best for the Doughboy. The house remained a family home until 1950 when Alfred passed, and then the home was willed to any living male Pillsbury heir. And for just a handful of years, 3 years, it remained a home, and then for after that, it was a commercial space for almost 50 years. Fortunately, the previous homeowners bought the home in 2000, converted it back into a single-family home.
We had the opportunity to purchase this home in 2023 and make it a home for our future family. Our intention and our plan was we were going to be in this home for 30 years, take it room by room by ourselves over a long span of time while we raise kids in this house and slowly restore it. But the opportunity appeared right about the time we bought this house to partner up with ASID Minnesota, the Association of Interior Designers, and to collaborate together on a show house concept. And so in a remarkable 12-month time span, we were able to tackle this 12,000 square foot house by partnering up with 30 designers, one taking each room in a crazy collaborative adventure that we just wrapped up here in July.
Yeah, and now we have a fully furnished 12,000 square foot home that is ready for us to move into.
Yeah.
When we discovered the house, it's kind of a funny story. I had been eyeing this house for 8 years. It had been on Zillow and had been on the market and had gone unsold for a good part of a decade. Every time I was scrolling, every time it got served up to me, I looked at all 107 images. Every time I was obsessed and in love with this house. Fast forward to us deciding to have a little larger home, not certainly this large for our family, but I asked Ryan if he would consider obscenely large house and if he would consider something that was a period home. So I convinced him to come and take a tour. And we were kind of 3 steps in, and just what the house offers is unlike anything we've ever seen. The level of detail and exquisite woodwork, the formal layout, but then also the informal spaces are also really magical. What we really loved in kind of the process is seeing a house that was beautiful, but needed a lot of love, a lot of infrastructure. The house is 120 years old, so it needed updated electrical, it needed updated plumbing, kind of all the mechanical systems needed help. A lot of, fortunately, the main, more formal living spaces were in pretty good shape. It was mostly finishes that needed to be refreshed in kind of the main level of the house.
One of the challenges with this house was when it was originally built, it was built at a time period and for a class of people for whom this was sort of 2 homes, front of house and back of house. There was the family portion of the home, and there was the staff quarters of the home. And while some of that had been picked apart over time, we really set out with our architect to open the house up and make it a full house, to strip away the boundaries between front of house and back of house, and to make it sort of flow and function more as a family home on all 3 floors.
Because we're going to live in the whole house, in the way the Pillsburys only lived really primarily on the main floor and on the second level. And so we imagine utilizing all the spaces, and so we've reclaimed a lot of what would have been kind of ancillary space in the house.
And one of the brilliant things of working with the designers was they really helped us think about how we elevate, particularly the 3rd floor, to bring coherence across all 3 floors. Because one of the things you notice 3 steps in, the 1st floor is immaculate. It's exceptional. It's where you would have entertained guests. The 2nd floor is pretty darn good because we lived there. The 3rd floor was kind of forgotten about, and the basement was utilitarian. So that idea of how we could bring the 1st and 2nd floor elegance sort of up to the 3rd floor and reimagine the space in the basement to be oriented for a family in 2024 was a really cool transformation that got to happen. Really loved that. When you enter our home, we have this wonderfully warm white oak vestibule that has been restored and refinished. A little gilding on the ceiling, some brand new light fixtures, a wonderful little bench to put shoes on, and then our favorite piece, the designer of this space sampled the marbles from the 3 primary fireplaces in the house and reassembled those into this beautifully striped pattern on the floor, and it becomes the perfect welcome into our great hall and grand staircase.
The staircase is kind of the moment when you come into this space, and Ryan and I were 3 steps into the house. I looked at the staircase and turned to Ryan and said, we have to do this. The staircase itself, like the vestibule, is white oak. We've been told it took over a year to hand carve in place. What's especially interesting about the staircase, and these are little tidbits that we learned from the craftspeople as they were working on the refurbishment of the home as a whole, but the staircase is really special. There may be only one other in the world like it. It is a Fibonacci curve, and so it has a very tight radius, and what's fascinating is it's the same radius that's detailed. This is almost like looking at an overview of the staircase itself. We've been told that the only other one that at least the craftsperson that was working on the home knows of is actually at the Vatican. The level of detail that was put into the house was the thing that spoke to us and really called us into action. The house had been on the market for 8 years, and almost everybody was going to convert it back into commercial use. That was kind of the primary focus of anybody looking at the house. What was important for Ryan and I was to maintain it as a single family home, and one of the things that I envision is our kids teetering down these stairs, certainly for holidays, but every day. And yeah, so the staircase is a really, I think, iconic piece of the home itself. What was interesting, however, was that the staircase itself didn't have a chandelier. And so when we first were looking at the house, we're like, it needs this beautiful waterfall concept, and we worked with Hennepin Made, which is a glass blowing company, and they created a 2-story chandelier that's modern in feel, and I love the juxtaposition of the linear, kind of more modern look with the very linear grid of the 1903 quarter-sawn oak paneling. Other thing that's really amazing in kind of the detail of the home itself is we have these exquisite plaster ceilings, and they're iconic. They tell a story of a very special room that we'll see later in the tour. We were fortunate in the fact that elements like this were in pretty pristine condition, considering they're 120 years old. The woodwork, the oak has weathered well over time. Our bigger challenge have been in some of the things that existed in the home. The wood floors had been replaced at one point. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is give back things to the house that would have been original. And so we, as part of the infrastructure work in the home, we took up the floors so that we could access all of the mechanicals. With the decorative ceilings like we have, it just didn't make sense to try to fish wires and plumbing and HVAC through the decorative plasterwork. It made much more sense to take up the floors. What's amazing about that is we've now been able to create the consistency in the flooring that would have been here when Alfred and Eleanor would have had this as their home.
Speaking of when Alfred and Eleanor lived in the house, if you were a guest, you would have come in the front door and been taken to the reception room while you waited for Alfred or Eleanor to come down the grand staircase and greet you.
This is the funniest thing, I think. As grand as this main level is, this would have been their entertaining level of the home. So they would have mostly spent most of their time upstairs. And I think we just live so differently today. I would spend all of my time in these beautiful spaces. So what was amazing with working with 30 designers is that they brought in inspiration and did things that we would have never thought of. And I love the fact that they really leaned into this juxtaposition of the historic nature of the home, but also with this more modern vibe with furnishings. Vela designed just this beautiful trio of marble tables. One of our requests for the designers, which was led by our architect, was that materials in the home should be evocative of 1903. So you'll see a lot of marble throughout the house, a lot of man-made stone, a lot of handmade pieces. And this was just a really great trio, again, pulling elements from other pieces of the house. From the design perspective, it was kind of an introduction to what you're gonna see in other spaces. And I love that, that it just plays beautifully in this space. The thing for me on this house, and this was funny because when we looked at our former house, one of the requirements that I had for our real estate agent was it had to have a killer staircase. And the one thing that this house, it's like the staircase from Titanic. It's like monumental. And so oddly enough, I think it's the staircase that is the coolest part of the house.
I think for me, the coolest part of the adventure, pulling this house together, you know, when the house was built in 1903, it was built using the best craftspersons of the time and the period. And they were doing work that isn't done today and can't be done today because those crafts have changed or become different. And so when we set out on this project, we looked out and said, well, what does it mean to be artisan in 2024? What does it mean to do craft in 2024? And we looked for those artists here locally in Minneapolis who paint glass, who blow glass, who hand make tile. Those craftspersons and being able to incorporate them throughout the house. So we have a 1903 craftsmanship up against 2024 craftsmanship. I mean, I really loved how that came together and that ability to sort of showcase artists in the designs throughout the space.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Peacock Lounge. This is our transformation of the reception hall, or the reception room. Again, beautiful plastered ceilings. Again, the floor we got to redo. We did this great little detail by adding 2 bands of walnut in around the perimeter, just giving it a little bit of an elevated detail. The woodwork is original, and then we found this awesome wallpaper that sort of just is evocative of the peacock feeling we wanted to have in the space. And then those blues and those grays just radiate. And it's a great little sitting room.
What I love is Rob also pulled in draperies, which would have been very common. In 1903, they would have used this actually to control heat within spaces, so it was pretty common in all doorways, particularly larger spaces, to be able to close them off. But what's great is it becomes all of a sudden an intimate space if you want to do something that's a little bit more private and have kind of a little more of a lounge experience with your guests, which I love. The other thing that's really great in this space is the bar. We didn't want to interrupt any of the beautiful molding that wraps the room itself. And so the bar is actually floating in the space, and it has a beautiful reeded front, which is also a quarter sawn oak to match the wall paneling. Tragically, a home that was another Pillsbury mansion. It was built on Lake Minnetonka in just outside of Minneapolis, was torn down right prior to COVID. It was built by the Pillsburys that originally lived across the street from Alfred and Eleanor. They had their summer home on the lake. It was, I think, a 30 or 40,000 square foot mansion, so like 3 or 4 times the size of this. But the peacock inspiration that's in the windows was actually a concept that we wanted to incorporate, and it takes from the motif that was used at Southways. Samuel Yellen, a famous metal worker, had crafted these amazing peacock doors. And since the wallpaper already had that peacock inspiration, we wanted to have a kind of a hallmark to the Southways Pillsbury mansion and a nod to the other parts of the Pillsbury family in our home.
We love entertaining, and this is just a remarkably designed bar. Has everything you'd want to have if you were hosting a party, and we like to host parties. So beautiful reeded bar that was built with the marble on top, and when you come around behind, you can just see it's a fully floating bar, built-in fridge, built-in ice, built-in trash, built-in glass washer, built-in dishwasher, 2 of them, so you can keep going. We put everything we could think of into this bar design. And then added some nice floating shelves on both sides, a little bit of brass, a little bit of glass, and some hand-painted mirror. Again, just to reflect and sort of bounce the light around the space a little bit more.
What I love about the space is it feels like a lounge, like in a boutique hotel. So it's just kind of this intimate gathering space. And we've already actually entertained guests here. So we've been really trying to enjoy utilizing this space as kind of the welcome to our home. Our style is definitely more dark and moody. I would say we lean towards things that are more masculine. In our house, I feel like we've done what I would call a European sensibility, where we've blended the past, but also understood that we also need to transform things to be more modern. A lot of the mansions that we looked at when we were looking at homes in general, a lot of them are dark. And that was one of the things that I think we really appreciated about this home. From what we've heard and what we've read about Alfred, he was very instrumental in the design of this home. Ernest Kennedy was our architect that had built the home, and he had built many of the Pillsbury mansions as well as the notable elite of Minneapolis at the turn of the century. His homes don't feel like this. This house feels very different, and I think it's because Alfred had his hand in the design of this home. One of the big things that makes a huge difference in the space is the use of windows. There's so many windows in this house, and so natural lighting is something that we were drawn to when we walked through the house for the first time, because it is, as much as there is a lot of woodwork in the house, it does feel open and airy, and has a really open floor plan for 1903. At that time, they would have been coming out of the Victorian era, where there would have been a lot of smaller rooms, interconnected, but we have larger, more grand spaces that all kind of open onto each other, kind of like how we live now. And I think that was one of our appreciations of the house and what really drew us to the space.
We're cutting off the cocktail now and welcoming you to the Grand Salon. This is our formal dining room or informal living room combination of space. It's the original great room of the house, and we have taken it into this concept that has a beautiful dining room table running right down the middle of it.
One of the things that we asked for the designer is to figure out how to do configuration of the soft seating and the dining room table. The previous homeowner had the dining room table off-centered in the room and kind of what I would say a bowling alley leading to the fireplace. And we really felt when guests come into our front door, we wanted them to see the hospitality of a grand table, because we would imagine that we will spend a lot of meals here entertaining our guests. So the table is kind of a centerpiece of this room. And then what I love is the designer has been a little more playful in color. And we have these beautiful sofas that flank the one side of the room. The woodwork really is the star of this space, and I feel like the elements that have been added into the room really have the mahogany really stands out from that. It was amazing to have craftspeople come in and do a full restoration on this full room. They took the smallest little tools, metal scrapers basically, and basically put back all of the shadow lines into the profiles of the moldings. And it was amazing to see the difference between the before and after, how much those lines really define the beauty of the wood. Honduran mahogany is very rare, and unfortunately over time, sometime during the commercial use of this home, two of the walls were stripped of their original paneling, and so we just have the one feature wall with the windows now that have the original paneling. But the hand-carved motifs were one of the things that really spoke to us as well, just that detail of what the craftspeople created in 1903 for Alfred and Eleanor. Originally, the fireplace, the hearth was actually much larger when we purchased the home. It came out almost as far as the columns. We have seen drawings from publication from the turn of the century that detailed the architecture of the home, and this has been modified over time. There was originally an ingle nook, so benches that wrapped the fireplace. So I imagine the Pillsburys would have come and sat and warmed themselves by the fire. Those were removed, we believe, potentially by the previous homeowner. Prior to that, bookcases flanked the fireplace as well, and those were removed even before that. We've been fortunate enough with the public tour that a lot of people came through that had either worked in the house or had rented pieces of the house over time, and were able to share pictures. So we're starting a document of kind of the living history of the house, which has been fascinating. But we decided, since the ingle nook was no longer here and the fireplace hearth seemed oversized for the room, we utilized the original stone but just made it a little smaller, and then thought about how the finishes could really be enhanced in the space.
We ended up putting a herringbone floor in. We don't know that was originally in this space. It was true of the time period. It was true of Ernest Kennedy, the architect of the home. So we took the liberty of the opportunity, since we were replacing the floors, to adding that sort of elevated level in here and in the music room. And it's just a really remarkable detail. Again, sort of pulls you right on into the room and towards the fireplace, which is great. Lighting really became museum our opportunity to sort of transition and sort of do that juxtaposition between what was respectful of the wood and the materials, and yet the transitionary kind of piece to a more modern or contemporary way that we wanted to live. You know, we did not want this to feel like a museum. We wanted it to feel inviting like a home, and light fixtures really sort of gave us that opportunity. So a lot of brass, a lot of glass, a lot of contemporary forms.
Well, and I think one of the things that was the opportunity is we knew that the original light fixtures in the home had been removed and had been sold. They were valuable sometime probably in the 70s or 80s. They were sold off. So we weren't tied to keeping something for its historic nature because it wasn't, at this point, what was replaced was not of the house. And so it really did give designers a great opportunity to lean into things that were more artistic.
We love also the way the designers were able to integrate sort of sustainable materials. So this fabric is actually recycled plastic bottles, which is super, super cool. And we went ahead with a natural cork for the wall finishing in this space. Again, the designer really wanted the wood to pop, and this use of this eucalyptus cork with a little bit of gold fleck and a little bit of gloss, I think really allows that to happen because it feels rich, but it's subdued or subtle enough sort of in the background. And it's so cool to just know that that's cork. And then we took the opportunity with the fireplace to jazz that up with a woven fabric wall covering that is on the fireplace and is also on the reverse of the archways. We added in a mirrored tile for the far end of the room. It is a very simple 1, 2, 3 tile pattern. We just did it in an offset way so that it doesn't look like vertical stripes, and it adds a little bit of sexy charm to this great room. But it lets us reflect those columns, and so if you're standing here on the front of the room and taking a look at the fireplace, you will see that the wallpaper appears to continue off to both sides into the reflection because it was also done on the reverse sides of the columns. Which is really, really fun. And then it pops itself up onto the ceiling as well. There's a lot of sort of fifth wall finishes in this house. That was an exciting opportunity to sort of showcase materials used in that way. My other favorite detail is these chairs and the dining room table, which are from a company called Peacock. It's a Guatemalan family of designers, and these are bound strips of birch that are then laminated together and formed into the shape. It looks a little crazy. It is remarkably comfortable. And the table, again, is sort of this very, very sexy form that just pulls you right into the room underneath the glass. Beautiful sort of piece we got to use in the centerpiece of our Great Hall. So
what we loved was the fact that these cabinets just have a collection of our things that we've collected over time, whether it be on travels or just things that maybe have been from a family member, just things that really spoke to us. And it was great that the designers really leaned into our personal effects as they created the design home for us. The other thing that's really interesting about this room is in the 70s, the house was occupied by an architecture firm, and they had enclosed the open air porch and were using it for storage for their blueprints. Turns out blueprints at the time were very flammable, and the house had a fire. And so there are 3 beams in this room that were replaced. They're actually not mahogany anymore. And there was originally 3 windows along this wall. One of the windows was significantly damaged in the fire, and the previous homeowners, when they moved the kitchen, ended up removing windows so that they would have a functional wall in the kitchen for cabinetry. And so this room has changed over time. Originally it was a mirror image. There would have been 3 windows on one side facing the front of the house, and then 3 windows on the back of the house that would have looked out into the open air terrace. So what's great is we can transition from the grand salon directly into the kitchen. And this used to be the open air porch. The previous homeowners moved the kitchen, the original kitchen from the back of the house, and enclosed this porch so that the kitchen was more adjacent to the main living space, which is how we live now. Obviously in 1903, the Pillsburys wouldn't have spent time in their own kitchen. They would have had staff that would have prepared their meals. Well, now the kitchen is bathed in light, which is amazing. They filled basically the recesses in the stone with glass and created a room in something that would have just been an open air space before. What we love about the kitchen is that it now feels like it's part of the house. The original kitchen, which was done in early 2000s, really didn't feel like the home itself. And what the designers did with this space is create something that is actually two kitchens. Originally it was one huge open space, and they've created a more formal gallery kitchen, and then also a secondary scullery area.
We have this remarkable island. Again, we love entertaining and to host. You know, we've already had 23 people around this island, so it is substantial. But these gorgeous marble countertops. And then a 5-foot sink, which we were told is like the size of a bathtub. Obviously not the width way, but like the length way. Like this is the length of a bathtub. So we have a 5-foot sink and a 5-foot cooktop, which seems absolutely killer to me, or crazy, and very intimidating on some levels. But I believe the kitchen has 5 ovens, and there's 23 appliances in this space that were designed in, which is so cool.
Well, and what I appreciate too is the fact that the appliances are all very modern in aesthetic. They're all Gaggenau, and normally that brand you typically will see in much more modern new builds. But I love how it integrates into kind of this classic feel, because they just kind of seamlessly blend. The other feature that I love in this room is the mirror wall. That space, eventually, we hope to break through this wall and enclose the porte-cochere. Originally, since this would have been the back terrace of the home, the Pillsburys would have had their carriage, and then eventually Alfred was one of the first 3 automobile owners in Minneapolis. They would have been dropped off here in the porte-cochere. They would have come up a set of stairs onto this terrace and then go through what would have been the back door of the home, or the family entrance of the home. So we're hoping in the future that we can enclose the porte-cochere and make that a breakfast room off the kitchen, which would be an amazing kind of informal space. But for now, the mirror is amazing. It just really transforms and doubles the space, and is so reflective and bounces the light.
Like I said, you know, there's like 23 appliances hiding in this kitchen and scullery, and as Matthew mentioned, they're beautifully built in. So from a coffee maker and a speed oven to a warming drawer and a vacuum sealer. But the best little trick, I think, is this built-in tray for your coffee. So you're ready to go, and it has its own spot right there.
The next space is our scullery, which is literally another full kitchen. So we have this amazing oven, a refrigerator, cooktop, hidden ice maker, kind of everything you would need for catering or entertaining. So when we're entertaining guests and we're actually not the ones cooking, this is a really great space for caterers to function and still giving us use of the full kitchen. But one of my favorite parts is the kind of butler's pantry side of the kitchen, with these amazing cabinets that have this gorgeous kind of almost terracotta interior. Great for storing kind of all of our party essentials and doing it in style. So we have a range of just kind of entertaining elements in here, like our collection of place card holders. Everybody needs those. But some of my favorite things are William and Morris pattern china, which is really fun. So we're really excited to entertain in the Grand Salon. But probably our most cherished piece that's housed in the cabinetry is a 1929 trophy that Alfred Pillsbury presented for the Woodhill Horse Show. Our designer that did the kitchen and scullery, Kate, actually found this in an antique store. And so this is one of our prized possessions, something that actually Alfred had presented in 1923.
And the other piece that Kate found that no kitchen should be without: a Pillsbury Doughboy. You know, one more remarkable detail. Again, this was an all stone, limestone, open air porch originally. And so when they went to put in the cabinets, they had to scribe the detail. And it was crazy watching them do this and figure out how to get the woodwork to line up, how to get the ceiling to line up, and how to get the stone to line up.
Let's head on to the music room. Follow us. And here we are in the music room. This was originally Alfred and Eleanor's formal dining room, but when the kitchen moved from the back of the home to its new location in the open air porch, this no longer made sense as the dining room since the kitchen was basically across the house. And so we have turned this into more of our formal living space, and we call it our music room because it features our baby grand piano. When we purchased the house, we loved the woodwork. Again, this is all mahogany in here. It was in really poor condition. The finish had basically alligatored. It was a shellac, and over time, with the exposure to the sunlight, with all the natural light that does come into this space, it had all crackled. What's amazing about shellac is the fact that they can spray it with denatured alcohol, and they sprayed it like 100 times, and it slowly smoothed out the finish, and then they were able to add additional shellac on top of it, and now it looks as if it's a finish of a fancy piano.
We found an original photo of this space. It's one of sort of 6. Again, because the Pillsburys did not have children, there wasn't necessarily a good lineage of photographs. We're hoping, and over time, trying to find more pictures of what the house did look like. But we had one photo of this space when it was the dining room, and it did have a landscape mural on it. And so we worked with the designer to bring that back, but to bring it back in a more contemporary fashion. A lot of people think this is painted. It isn't. It's wall covering again, and as well, the ceilings were featured with wall papers, which was a lot of fun to watch the guy put up while he was walking around on stilts. But again, just the finish of the 5th wall sort of elevates the entire room to a little more grand level and a little more contemporarily grand level, which is a lot of fun.
The other thing, we kind of made a strategic choice in the home. There were 5 fireplaces that existed in the home. The chimneys were really compromised, and so we have decided that it was more appropriate to put in a gas fireplace insert in the home. We couldn't imagine actually trying to burn wood in this house. I would be scared that we would burn the house down. So that was one change that we made that did modernize the house, but gave us the opportunity to really utilize the fireplaces in a way we couldn't if we didn't do the insert. The other really fun part of this room, I think, is the furnishings. Again, they lean towards a little bit more modern, contemporary lines, and I think it really helps the detail of the room stand out. And it's just a relaxing and very cozy space. I think what I appreciate about what the designers did in all of the spaces is the fact that we can come into any of these rooms, even though they're grand, they feel really welcoming, and I would not have any qualms about coming in here and just opening up and reading a book. And there's so many spaces throughout the house that are like that.
Now's our chance to go down a grand staircase, and it's a little crazy. When we first came into the house, we were curious, why would there be a grand staircase to the basement? Well, when you have a 17th century Tudor library that you're trying to show off, it makes a little bit of sense to have a grand stair. Alfred imported this room and reconstructed it in the basement of the house, building the rest of the house around it. And it is a remarkable piece of history that we get to live with every day. So this is all hand carved, 1600s, English. We don't know where in England it is from, but it is English. An English room, from what we have been told. The whole room had been imported: floors, walls, ceiling, fireplace. When we moved into the house, the floors had actually rotted away, so we were not able to reclaim them. We had to replace them with a new wood floor that would stay up in the basement, but the rest of the room was restored and brought back to life. These panels are all hand carved, and it's really cool. They change size actually as they go up. They get smaller, which is a trick of forced perspective to make the room feel even taller than it is. We have 11-foot ceilings in this room, and it's because that this room was sort of built in the basement. And up above us is a remarkable plaster ceiling. This is the original ceiling upon which the ceilings on the first floor are based and recreated from. But you can just see all of the detail, both in the plaster ceiling and in the hand-carved wood around the perimeter of the room. It is really a remarkable landmark, and it's so awesome that we were able to A, that it was in good enough condition, but B, that we were able to bring it back to life. About 20 panels had to be replaced, and some of the plaster needed to be repaired. But we're so excited to sort of have this room in the house. Even though we've got a set of original windows, we're below ground. This was actually built in the basement and the rest of the house is built around it. And so you can see that because the windows still work as we open it up. Come right on through. But the limestone foundation of the house is right there, probably about 2.5 feet away from the outside. The designer we worked with for this space reconceptualized the room as a billiards room. So we got our great billiards table and very contemporary light fixtures, but the wood still sings, and that's the signature element of this place, or of this room. Alfred used this room to show off his art collection. And so we assume that maybe he would be entertaining guests, they'd be having dinner, they would come downstairs, and he would have some of his artwork on display. But having 900 pieces of art, he needed some place to keep them. So he had a vault. We built sort of a custom bar to insert into the walls and then set out this furniture. We imagine this being a place that you're gonna come for an after dinner drink. We want the ability to sort of flip it out and host a dinner down here. It's just a really cool secret little room off the billiards room. When we moved in, not much remained of what probably was originally the structure. Just really these two pieces of marble and the flooring. So we were able to sort of refinish the flooring. We recreated the marble to keep that detail going on here, and then brought in new marble to sort of finish off the floor and sort of keep the space. The designer came in and added the barrel curved ceiling in, and then needed sort of a long linear light fixture, and so just fell in love with this faceted, almost necklace-like alignment of 3 different light strands for the ceiling. So we have a fully custom leather sofa and pillows, custom fabricated chair, custom marble little table, and this fun little cheetah ottoman to just, add a little bit of surprise and delight into the room. And then we did a detail on the carpet to sort of give it a non-traditional shape. It just, again, adds a little bit of sexy fun to this room. And it's just a sexy, fun room. It's remarkable, again, to be in a house and sort of have 11-foot ceilings in the basement. And again, a little bit of nice natural light that's coming on in. But we were able to sort of reclaim this unused space to be an extension of a lounge and a home theater. Favorite details by far, this is true leather wallpaper, and the zippers are real. They could work if they weren't glued down. But the walls and the ceiling are both leather panels. That gives the room a little bit of nice acoustical property, and also just a really great sort of finishing detail. And then the designer created this timbre wall that we're really proud of and excited by, that sort of sits over here and allows this to be a nice lounge space when you want it to be a lounge space, or when it's time for a movie, you just slide it open. We didn't want a theater that was just a theater and that was sort of dominated or overwhelmed by the screen all the time or by 2 sort of giant chairs. So we love the fact that this is sort of a lounge space in which it's comfortable to gather, or a great place to watch a movie or a game.
So we met through kind of our business industry. Both Ryan and I work in events. We belong to an association of event professionals, and Ryan called me up one day and said, "Hey, I see you're a new member of the association. I happen to be doing an event at the convention center. I see you're having an event the same weekend. I have a bunch of calla lilies that are being used for a lunch, and we're gonna throw them away after. Would you have any use for them?" And I was like, "Of course." And that was kind of our first connection.
That turned into dinner, and then 17 years of crazy adventures together. So that's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun. This being the biggest,
Yes.
for sure.
What's cool, however, about that story is when we take a tour of the home, there is a mural that was created and commissioned for the home, and to tell kind of our story kind of in 3 parts: our past, our present, and our future. And the artist chose to incorporate calla lilies also into that mural, which is really cool. So it's been interesting as an adventure. This project happened in 12 months. Construction happened in only 9 months. We did a full transformation of all the space, as I think challenging of all the moving pieces, like quick timeline, lots of individuals involved. What Ryan and I discovered is this project actually pulled us closer together.
It's true.
Where it could easily have pushed us apart.
Yeah, no, it really did.
Because there's so many dynamics that happen with something of this scale.
Were there moments we're ripping our hair out? For sure. Were there things we didn't understand? Yes. It's crazy. Like we're in the event industry, so we are used to quick timelines and we are used to designing space. So we're design adjacent, which probably made us very good clients. It probably also made us really terrible clients because we knew just enough to be dangerous in what we were doing.
But we're used to working in an industry where a timeline is finite. Whereas interior design and construction is a little more fluid than that. And so that was an interesting kind of learning curve. So let me take you on to the second level where the Pillsburys would have spent all of their kind of daily living, but it's now our bedroom quarters. Come on up with me. So as we come up to the second floor landing, we have this amazing mural, and I referenced this earlier about the fact that we have kind of our history, both past, present, and future. And so the story of the callally is depicted here, which I love, and this is actually hand painted by a local set of artisans called By Shishi, and they did the entire concept for this mural, kind of a Matisse inspired, or one of the other inspirations that we had given to them was I love how the juxtaposition of the Paris Opera House and the Chagall ceiling. This is kind of an interpretation of that without the bright colors that are in that. But there are depictions of children in our future, which is also really fun, a nod to we love theater and Disney, so there are some Disney-esque elements that lead into the kids' room as well. But again, you can see also that beautiful two-story chandelier really is the centerpiece of this beautiful space at the top of the stairs. So welcome into our primary suite. This would have originally been a set of rooms that Mrs. Pillsbury would have used as her sitting room. So this originally wasn't a bedroom, and we've converted it into our primary bedroom. What I love about the space is the fact that it's kind of two rooms in one. And what's really great about the new design of the space is the fact that Chris, the designer of this space, actually created two chandeliers that really orient the bed space and then kind of the soft seating living space of this room. We've added in these beautiful kind of coved recesses for those chandeliers. Originally, the room had one center chandelier, but with the fact that we really kind of wanted to create two spaces, this made a lot more sense. What I really love about this particular room is the fireplace. The tile is original, and there are green accents kind of throughout the entire primary suite based on the tile from this fireplace. This was originally a coal-burning fireplace, and eventually we would like to have a custom insert made so that we could actually use it. Obviously, we're not going to be burning coal in the home, but it is a really great feature of this room. The other thing that we really enjoy in the bedroom space is the fact that it has windows that overlook downtown Minneapolis, and so the skyscrapers of the city skyline are just out our windows. Eventually, if we can get permission through the Historic Preservation Commission, we'd like to actually turn these windows into doors. There is a terrace outside of the bedroom that is the roof of the kitchen space that would make a beautiful additional living space, and having doors from the bedroom into kind of that outdoor patio space would be amazing. Ryan and I argued a little bit about whether or not we would have a television in the bedroom, and so this was a really creative piece. This is actually a retired Ethan Allen element. It was a freestanding television cabinet, so TV actually raises up out of this. It has a lift system, and so Ryan was able to get the television in the bedroom and I don't have to look at it. What was creative with our contractors is they actually recessed it into the wall so it looks like a built-in. Throughout the renovation of the home is we've really tried to find ways to connect both the past with the present, but in a way that is really seamless so you really can't tell what is old and what is new. And I think the woodwork in the house is one of those best examples. One of the things that we did was we remilled the original woodwork so that any of the new elements that we were adding to the house were identical to the original. There had been a lot of renovation and restoration over the course of time in the house, and so one of the things that we discovered is a lot of the wood profiles within the woodwork and the baseboards specifically were not original, and we wanted to be as true to the original intent as possible. I think one of the best examples of that is our primary bathroom. When we purchased the house, what is now the primary bathroom was a closet, and what is now the closet was the primary bathroom. We felt that the closet was oversized and the bathroom was undersized, so we did a flip-flop. The other really important thing for me personally was to start creating some really great lines of sight through the home. And we had this beautiful 3-window kind of bay concept that was obscured by a third of the closet. And so by rearranging the entrance into this space, we were able to line the door up with the window and created basically a gallery. So you kind of walk through a series of rooms, ending with this beautiful soaking tub. And then one of my favorite features, we have a coffee machine here built in, and as a trade-off, I get the coffee, but Ryan gets the ice cream. So we have a freezer here as well. So the primary suite is definitely decked out with everything that you would need, whether you're getting up in the morning for a fresh cup of coffee or if you want to tuck into bed with a gallon of Ben & Jerry's. So the other really amazing feature is this huge, I call it the car wash size shower that is fully lined with marble. It has a rain head, it's got double head showers, it's also a steam shower and has a body spray system. It's like having your own spa oasis in the primary suite. Double vanities was another important piece for this, and cleverly the contractor built in our medicine cabinets into a framed concept. And what I love about the medicine cabinets is there's actually electrical built in, so you can have kind of your razor, your electric toothbrush, all of that can be hidden off of the counter space. Another really fun product that we discovered is what's called a 22 system outlet, which is basically just the outlet itself, so it doesn't require a cover plate, and it's actually kind of built into the materials, just a really kind of seamless look, and really kind of lets the stone of the room stand out. As I think we mentioned earlier, one of the requirements that we had for the designers were for them to use things that would have been of the period of 1903. So that's why you see the natural marble kind of throughout this space. And even though this is a brand new bathroom, it does feel like it's always been here. The other really special space in the suite is our killer closet. And so we have a fully built-in wardrobe system with internal lighting. We love the fact that with the seated glass, you can still see into kind of our collection of clothing, but it has this really great look, definitely a more masculine space. I think that's one of the things that we really ask designers to lean into is we do like these darker, richer colors. And one of the signature pieces in the closet is this steam closet. Which is a new thing, which we're super excited to give that a try as well. So just a really special space. One of the other details that was really fun working with craftsmen and craftspeople is our wallpaper installer had a recommendation for the designer to basically do a gift wrap concept on the ceiling in this room. So you can see that the wallpaper actually comes to a point in the center of the room, and then they've done a band of the wallpaper kind of crisscrossing from corner to corner, which is really fun. Really kind of draws your eye to the chandelier, which is a really great feature in this space. You'll notice also, again, the repetition of the green. So this green comes from the tile, and it's just a green glass door on the upper parts of the cabinet. In the primary bathroom, the walls are actually painted a green. So there's just kind of a nod to that green throughout the spaces. So we're really fortunate in having really a luxurious suite. It almost feels like we're at a luxury hotel. A space that we'll definitely want to retire to for the evenings. So next on our tour is the kids' bedroom, and we're really excited about that because it's part of our journey of our next part of our life. So let's take a look. So this is the most special room in the house, and this is the one that made me cry when the designer Lucy Penfield showed us her renderings. What we had asked for is a space that felt like the nursery in Mary Poppins or Peter Pan, and what she delivered is just that. Like, this is such a playful space. It's filled with fabrics and patterns, and there's some kind of fun pieces within the room that are special to us because they were in the home when we purchased it. So the beds were reclaimed. The previous homeowners had an auction and sold off a lot of their furnishings. And we saw these twin beds and felt that they would be a perfect addition to the space. Same with this armoire. And what Lucy ended up doing is painting them in a kind of a slate blue finish, which is just beautiful. So kind of modernizing the feel of the classic pieces, but having something that was in the home was really fun. The other really great addition to this space is what we call story time. And it's basically a series of banquettes filling the bay window. We decided to give our future children kind of the best room in the house. This one has the best lighting. This would have been originally Alfred's sitting room, so it's a really important space. Knowing that we would have kids, but the room had a fireplace, one of our concerns was who did we need to protect more, the fireplace or the kids? And so Ryan works with Children's Theater Company, and their scenic department actually built us this stage that basically covers the fireplace until the kids are old enough to probably move to rooms upstairs when they would have separate rooms. But in the meantime, they have a theater stage, so their imagination can run wild. So one of my favorite pieces of the house, because again, it's that leading into the artistry of local artists and something that is personal to us. The suite also has a cute little powder room as well, and we can take you in there. Again, a lot of our requests were to create spaces that felt like they were original, and so this is a beautifully tiled room. We mimicked the original marble surrounds on the windows. This was indicative of actually all of the bathrooms in the house, and so we wanted to keep that at least in one of the spaces. And so even though this is a brand new space, it really feels like it's always there. And I think that was the important thing. As we transitioned spaces within the house, we did really want to honor kind of the legacy of what was here before and really lean into the pieces that would feel appropriate for the house. That was really important to us. One of the elements that I love from an art perspective in the house is there's just so many different kind of types of art. And when Lucy was shopping, she found these vintage Babar prints that I believe are from 1940s, which is really great. And they just work really beautifully in the room. And again, kind of tie into kind of that European sense and kind of blending some of that. We know that was important for Alfred to bring in those European influences. And I love that we're doing that in this, what I would call a very English nanny style bedroom.
Welcome to what is my office. Matt's not going to tell you this, but really I'm the big kid in the relationship. So this is sort of the place in which we get to monkey around and do our business while we're there. Thus the theme. Beautiful denim wallpaper that is hand stitched with snow monkeys hiding in the pattern. And that was finished off with sort of this great little monkey light fixture. We have the little monkeys crawling around and deconstructing the chandelier. Those two elements sort of really came together to give us a little bit of theme for this office, which I love because it's whimsical and fun, and yet it's still refined in a nice little way, which has really been pleasurable and fun to create. Ended up building in sort of these walnut cabinets and leveraging that orange color that comes out of the wallpaper. Again, that saturated color is great, and yet it's not as overwhelming as I think most people would think. You know, most people would think you're gonna do a big bold color, it's gonna sort of drive you bonkers, but in this room, it's nothing but color. The saturated anchors away blue that's in the doorknobs and the trim. Like I said, the orange, the blue and the brass and the walnut really come together, I think, in a great way. And then we have that little bit of gold gilding reflected in the ceiling. That is a wall covering. It actually has real gold foil in it. I just love how it sort of like pulls everything together in this room.
I think collectively home means family. Part of the reason we purchased this home was to start our family. We've waited a long time to do that, and so we're excited to create adventures. The house is full of stories. The house is full of playful opportunities. The house has been designed for children. There's an amazing bedroom suite for our future kids. There's playrooms, there's secret passages. It's just, I think,
There's a lot of whimsy.
home encapsulates that whimsy that we'll have as a family. Thanks, Homeworthy, for coming and joining us today on our tour of our home.
But I smell cookies in the oven, so we gotta go. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.